just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up, baby. Tonight we gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up.
Hey guys, we are live. Sounds like I still got some music playing on one of these fronts. There we go. So coming to you live, taking your heating and air questions live. If I can talk tonight, we've already got a few of you on here. So hey to Gary, Mark, TJ, welcome to the show. Wanted to start tonight's show out with a story that I should have probably covered last week. And this story's coming. It looks like it says the Cape Coast and Islands. I think this story's from up north somewhere though, so I'm not exactly sure where that's where Cape is. But this story is not regional. It was very interesting. We had a gigantic heat wave. I guess it was about a week and a half ago, and it was maybe about a week ago, and a bunch of schools were letting out the students because they had no air conditioning in their area. They're not used to having those types of temperatures, and so they were letting the kids out of school. It says, coming off a hot Labor Day weekend, many students around the country had their return to classrooms cut short. Schools along the East Coast and in parts of the Midwest changed their schedules, in some cases sending students home early due to heat advisories and lack of air conditioning. Districts in New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin called for a half day on Tuesday to get students home before the temperatures peaked. At some schools in Pittsburgh and Baltimore, so Baltimore's not far from me, about a 2-hour drive really, students were told to stay at home and log on for virtual learning. Milwaukee, Alice Kirtley finished up her first day of 4th grade at 11 a.m. I'm sure Alice will never see this, but hey to Alice in the 4th grade. She says her teachers at Maryland Avenue Montessori are trying their best, but the classroom still gets really hot. Quote, they have fans and they open their windows a lot, but I would appreciate air conditioners. And so I think the reason I wanted to cover this is, there's parts of the country where schools have never needed air conditioning before, and now that might be something they need to look at. And, that's obviously not a cheap undertaking, having to add air conditioning to all these schools, especially if this were to continue. Maybe it's just something that, a fluke thing, or maybe this is going to happen again and again and again. We'll see. A district representative confirmed that 56% of Milwaukee's public schools offer full or partial air conditioning for students and staff, but that leaves almost half of the schools in the district without. It's not just Wisconsin. Lack of reliable air conditioning is a problem nationwide. A 2020 study from the U.S. Government Accountability Office found that an estimated 41% of districts needed to update or replace HVAC systems in at least half of their schools. Big city districts like Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh often have old school buildings and can't handle AC for one reason or another. So that opens another pickle. So it's not just air conditioning. If the building if they can't put the air conditioning there for one reason or another, then they've got to figure that out. Or they're going to have to build an entirely new school, an entire new building. In many cases, they try to find workarounds for a handful of hot days each year. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. His classroom does not have AC, and he's clocked temperatures as high as 90 degrees indoors. Even with the early release, everyone is walking out of that building sweaty and exhausted. So yeah, crazy story. I meant to actually talk about this last week, but as you guys know, any of you that join us every week know that I had some technical difficulties last week. But pretty crazy story. I do wonder what this means for the future. Are these what are some of the solutions these schools are going to come up with? Will they need to build new buildings? Will they need to put air conditioning in all parts of the school, or maybe they'll just maybe do it in phases? Just put air conditioning in this part of the school and maybe move the kids there until they can do the entire school, or however they do it. But I just thought it was interesting. And obviously, some of you guys that join us on this show, you live in certain parts of the country that this is taking place. So I feel bad for the kids, if they're having to be sent home, they're there to learn, and they're not able to because of the air conditioning. Let's see. Hello to Sound Engineering, very clever name. And hey to Frank. I think both of you might be new to our show, and so welcome to our show. Frank says South Side. Let's see. We had a show a question come in early this morning. Hector's probably not with us if he was on our channel at 7 o'clock this morning, but he said, "What is your opinion on Mr. Cool Universal?" And I'm just going to say no comment. No comment on that. So anyway, yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. Hey to Ryan. Ryan's one of our regulars. Good to see you. And, we'll dive into this. If you ask a question that I don't know the answer to, we usually have some other pros on here that might be able to answer your question, or maybe at least point you in the right direction. I wanted to, let's see, we did our news story here. Let's go ahead and do our lovely segment where I share goofy inventions with you. Again, if you do have a heating and air question, please drop that in the chat. In the meantime, it's time for Josh's goofy inventions. Bear with me, guys. My setup here is acting a little goofy. Give me 1 second here. Okay, hopefully that fixes that. My whole screen was blinking while I was trying to do our show here. So tonight's goofy invention is probably not that profound, probably not that clever of an invention, but tonight's goofy invention is basically, we all know the future holds a place for robots in our lives. We already see a lot of robots, doing all kinds of things, especially when I go into certain factories. Robots are certainly a thing. But what if you were to have a robot that were to just, instead of having to heat and cool your entire home, what if you had a robot that followed you around, literally followed you around and kept you cool always? You could set, your entire home. Let's say, it's hot. Let's say it's the middle of summer, and you set, so you're not having to cool this entire home and waste all this energy. You just set your thermostat at, say, 3, 4, 5 degrees higher than what you would normally keep it at. And then this robot would just blow comfortable, cool air on you. and keep, you and everyone in your home, everybody have their own robot. That's tonight's invention. What if it looked like this? Kind of like looks like that guy from the Star Wars movies, kind of following you around and blowing cool air on you. Let me know your thoughts on that. Would you be okay with a robot just following you around, blowing cool air on you, keeping you comfortable at all times? That's tonight's goofy invention, Josh Goofy invention. And if you want to steal my idea and patent it and create the product, feel free. Back to our chat. Let's see. Frank says, your videos got me interested in Daikin. Good. I'm obviously a fan of it. We sell it at Griffin Air, and we've done a few videos about Daikin and a few things I'm working with them on. And so, I'm probably drinking the Daikin Kool-Aid, right? I've tried multiple brands. When I started Griffin Air, I installed all the big brands, and, in some of their defense, maybe some of the issues I was having may have been more of a regional problem. Maybe it was a problem with the supplier, but in some cases it wasn't. And it didn't take long after we put a few of the Daikins in for me to kind of see a difference to, really, that's all we sell now. We do, if we have a customer that has a mobile home, Daikin does not sell a solution for those folks. Or at least, let me rephrase, they probably have a solution, but they don't make a mobile home electric furnace. And so because of that, we might steer away from them in those particular scenarios. But other than that, it's all we sell now. I just had a customer the other day, and they said, hey, will you sell me this brand instead? My brother-in-law said, that's a good brand. And I said, no, we only sell what we sell, for a number of reasons. And so, I think that's important. If you are doing business with a heating and air guy, or a company, I don't care if it's Daikin or any other brand, you want to do business with somebody that does drink the Kool-Aid of whoever it is they're selling you. You don't want a guy that says, I'll sell you whatever you want and just call me if you have any problems. I think that I wouldn't want to do business with. I would want the guy that says, hey, I'm telling you, this is what I would install in my own home. This is what I would say to my own family. And this is what I think is great. And that's the guy I want to do business with, right? Somebody drinking the Kool-Aid and really believes in and will stand behind what they're selling you. Soundgineering says, is there any direct drop-in for R22, or that just works, something that just needs me to do a dryer filter change only? Yes, there are several options, and honestly, there's probably more than a few. There's probably at least 7, 8 that I can think of. We did MO99 for the longest time, but I think there's a few others, and I do know that some of them do require certain things, like some of them may require changing the seals. Some of them may require, like you said, changing the filter dryer. Some of them may even go so far as to requiring oil, something done to the oil, whether it be change it or do whatever. And so I would probably, instead of telling you which one to go with, I would defer to your local pro and go with whatever it is that they like and will use and will continue to use. I don't think that it won't be too much longer. We're going to be having these same questions about 410. And we're also, I think there will come a time in the very near future where R22 will just, it's kind of already gone, but it'll be gone, right? It'll be something that we'll talk about, hey, do you remember those days? The good old days of R22, right? Hey to Carl, welcome to the show. Ryan says, what if a unit like Mr. Cool Universal or whatever is installed by a pro? It's basically the same unit as a GrieFlex or GE Connect. not every budget-friendly product is installed by homeowners. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what your question is. Are you saying, what if you have a pro that likes that brand? Is that the brand that you should go with? I mean, I guess the answer is yes. But, you know, I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of Mr. Cool. But, I mean, I think that, again, whoever the brand is, whatever the brand is, you know, you want to go with a pro that likes a brand for a certain reason. And it's sort of like, if you're going to buy a car, who wants to buy a car from a guy that'll just sell you any old thing? And, you know, too bad if you have any issues. You know, a guy that's going to stand behind what they're selling you, and they're going to, you know, they're going to feel bad if you call them back and say, hey, I'm having issues. They feel bad because they sold you on this product, right? That's how I feel. If I were to sell someone a Daikin and they have a major issue, I genuinely feel bad because I'm like, I told you to go this route and now you're having an issue, right? And so I think that's part of it. But I also think that it's more to it than that. I think that, you know, regardless of the brand, having a technician or a company that loves a brand or whatever for a certain reasons, they can actually say to you, oh, I love them because they pick up the phone when I call them, or they have good parts availability, or they, you know, they're very reliable and whatever, you know, whatever their reasons are, a reason that they love that product, right? They won't just sell you any old thing. You know, I think some people actually think it's better or more noble to go with a company that will sell you any old thing. That they are, you know, that they're not pushing you in a corner kind of thing. And I guess I can kind of see that side of the argument, but by gosh, if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I want to go with it. You know, I'm going to pick out the best contractor, and then I'm going to go with whatever they recommend to me, you know, and that they have already been on the front lines of selling them, installing them, and so on. And that's, you know, where I would want to go with that. That's just my 2 cents. You know, there's other ways of looking at it for sure. Tech Junkie pointed out a couple other replacement refrigerants. And I think, Tech Junkie, you're bringing up a good point. I think regardless of the refrigerant you go with, I do think TXVs have their place. You know, I know for a while there, guys, you know, hated TXVs, but you know, that's the best. If you're gonna go with, you know, especially a replacement refrigerant, you know, putting in the proper expansion valve that is going to operate, you know, open and close and give you the most efficiency out of whatever refrigerant it is you go with. That's a really good point. John says, how do you feel about using solder, especially, or ESP, especially, I think is what you're saying, especially if, say, 30% silver versus brazing refrigerant lines on new installs, especially RE valves. So John, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I am not one of these guys that I've seen other YouTube videos on guys. I haven't experimented a ton with all these other products out there. I use the same thing that I was taught on, which is, you know, we use an oxyacetylene torch, or turbo torch, just depends on the situation or the technician. But we flow nitrogen and we use our typical standard brazing rods. Now, do I think that's a good thing that I'm still doing it the way I was taught years ago? Maybe not necessarily. You know, maybe there is better things out there. I haven't found them yet, but I will tell you that very, very soon it's going to be not unheard of for more and more guys to be making more aluminum repairs, you know, aluminum coil repairs and so on. And so because of that, I think you're going to see more guys. Brian says 30% is high. Yeah, 30%. I can't remember. I think the ones that we use, I'm wanting to say they're 12 or 15%. Because I know that what the cheap ones I think are 6%, right? So I think the ones that we use are like 15, if I remember correctly, but I could be totally wrong. I honestly, I don't really, we just get them. Like I order them and we install the systems and we don't have issues. So I don't I've never went any further than that. I mean, full transparency, that's where I'm at with it. Jonold says, Griffin Air is a Daikin Comfort Pro, correct? How difficult is to obtain that certification? Yes, we're a Daikin Comfort Pro. Was not hard for us. The supplier that we use was very motivated for us to become one at the time. We were his first one. I installed the first Daikin fit in this area. At least I think I am, until someone tells me I'm wrong on that. I'm going to continue to claim that, take that stand. And so it was not difficult for us at all. We signed up for it and installed a few, and I think we took a class. But it was not one of those deals where I don't remember at any time they were going to say no in all of that. They have other classes they put on for us, and in fact, I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know if this is offered to everybody, but I will say that Daikin also offered a few other perks for marketing, co-op dollars, I guess you could call it, when we came over. And they have a really good dealer program. They want you to grow and do well with them. And I'm not going to get into all the ins and outs of why I don't feel that way about other companies, but I will say that there are other companies that I don't feel that way about. Like, there are other companies that I felt like they gave us really low prices to sell some of their equipment, and then it's almost like they get their teeth in you. You know, they've got you now. You know, you're drinking their Kool-Aid, and you start putting it on your website, and you put it on the side of your hat, and you're really starting to push their brand, and you're signed up with their dealer program and all that stuff. You even pay some of them to be a part of their dealer program. And then once the teeth are in, the claws are in, then they're really going to stick it to you. And that's how I felt with a couple other companies. John says, what do you feel about jump ducts on a new install? John, can you give me a little more context? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what a jump duct is. Maybe that's a term. A jump duct is a short piece of insulated flex duct, typically 10-inch in diameter, installed in the attic and attached to ceiling registers. I don't think this is really something we do a lot of. Jump duct. John likes to ask me questions that make me look dumb live on TV, live on this show. The jumper duct allows air from an uncomfortable room to flow out and into another room containing a return. Once in the other room, the air can flow back to the furnace. Oh, okay. Gotcha. I've just never called it that, but I have seen that. Now, I've never seen it quite like the pictures that I'm seeing here. Let me show you guys what I'm seeing. So it looks like they're installing basically a vent in each room and then connecting them with a duct here. And that's not something we've ever done. But we are also very particular about some of the things that we do, so I'm not going to get into all the details, but there are certain jobs, like there are certain builders in this area, they won't even hire us because I will not cut corners. I won't do it. And I know other heating and air guys say that too, but they're obviously cutting corners because we're having to fix their stuff later. And I'm not saying this is a cutting corners thing. I mean, I'm kind of getting off topic, but I will say we're very particular about the things we do and about what we are willing to do. But let me go back to your original question here, John. You said, how do you feel about them on a new install? I mean, I don't really feel anything about them. We've never used them, luckily, but I think that I could definitely see a place where you could or should. And so I'm curious, John, why you asked that question. Have you dealt with any of that? Have you had to, maybe Brian can tell us if he's had to use that strategy in a home. I could definitely see a place where you would do it. Maybe not this particular way of doing it, where you have the two registers, But there was another picture. Where did it go? Okay, so like this one, we've done through the wall fans like this, where you pull conditioned air from one room to the other. And I'll usually install these in houses. In fact, I did a YouTube video on it years ago, but we will install something. It's not this particular model, but we will install them sometimes in homes that if they do like a mini split, so if they have like a bathroom, they've got mini splits in the whole upstairs. We're not going to put a mini split in that little bathroom, but we could put a through the wall fan in there. And we like to put it on a variable switch so that they can turn it up and down like they want to. In fact, I have one in my house. I have a closet that we have guns and I've got our security system in there and all kinds of stuff. And I actually put a through the wall fan in there. So I could definitely see where you would probably, I could see a house where that would make sense for sure. So some of you other pros like Brian, let me know if you have done any jump ducts before. Let's see. Mr. Uzman, I'm not even going to try to say your full name because I'm sure I wouldn't say it correctly, but welcome to our show. What is the difference between application engineer, design engineer, and estimation engineer in HVAC, or all of them of these roles should be handled by a single guy? Well, I am curious where you are in the world. And the reason I ask that is apparently in Europe, engineers are what we in the States call technicians. So in the States, we call the guy that comes to your house and repairs an air conditioner, we call those technicians. That's a heating and air technician, a master mechanic, journeyman mechanic, or technician. Those are some of the words that we use, verbiage that we use. In fact, at Griffin Air, we don't have helpers or apprentices. We have senior techs and we have junior techs, and I have a project manager. But we don't have, I don't like to have terms like helper thrown around, and I'm not going to get into all the reasons why, but there's reasons for that. But I will say, on your question, application engineer, I don't know what that is. I'm just ignorant. I've never even heard that term used in residential. And then a design engineer or estimation engineer, those would be two different roles for sure, especially if you're talking about commercial or industrial heating and air. Excuse me. But getting back to the European verbiage, I did a YouTube video and show with a guy from the UK, and they call them, instead of technicians, they call the guy coming to your house an engineer. So in the US, an engineer is something totally different. An engineer is someone that will design things, almost similar to like an architect, but they're going to do blueprints of designing other things than just homes, right? So we have civil engineers, and we have aeronautical engineers, and we have, all kinds of engineers, so electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, all those guys. So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Quinn, welcome to the show, says, I have a single stage gas furnace with only one Y wire. Is it possible to get an inverter heat pump, have a single stage now? Yes. Look up some of the non-communicating inverter systems like Bosch. Ryan says, people drink the Kool-Aid on brands and products we don't like just because that's what they offer. It might not be the best fit. I agree. I like choice personally, and proper installation, to each their own. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's another way to look at it. I think considering that the homeowner may or may not have a brand preference, and so I think that's a good point. I just was, if I was a consumer, I would not, if I had a guy come to my house, regardless of my preconceived feelings or how I feel about a brand, if I have a technician come to my home, I want that guy to have something he knows and believes in, and a lot of them do, right? I mean, most heating and air guys, I feel like most good ones, they have a preference, and I don't care what that preference is, but all my friends in this trade that I consider to be good at what we do, they all have preferences. They have brands that they hate to work on them, they hate to install them, and they have brands that they love to work on them and love to install them. So that's just my 2 cents on that. Brian says Daikin changes the name of that program every 5 years. I am coming up on 5 years, so I will test that theory. I will see if they change the name of the program. Dealer program was buy everything from us. That's a good name. That's what I'm going to start calling our heating and air program at Griffin Air. Don, welcome to the show, says, I live in Houston, Texas. Very good. I was just there last week. Y'all have some great food down there. When outside temperature is 100 to 108 degrees, my AC runs continuously for several hours and it never goes under 77. 10 p.m. to 9 a.m. it can go down to 75. Is my AC working normal? I would say no. I mean, you should be able to reach temperature. And so I don't know if that means there's something wrong with it or if it's undersized, but you should be able to, in my mind, maybe not, maybe it might, run continuously on a 100-degree day, but in my mind, it should reach temperature at some point, and you're saying it never is. So that's, at least I think that's what you're saying. So I would not be okay with that warm of a house. In fact, I keep my house pretty cold compared to most. Brian says jump duct is just the same as cutting the door. Well, that's true. Just less sound transfer. Very true. Very true. John says, so you put returns in all the bedrooms, then on new installs? No, we do not. But there are times when we will tell folks that they need to have better airflow under a door. And then there are times when we will add a return to a part of the house. If not, the master bedroom is a good example of that. If needed. Ryan says, also, I think that companies stick with brands too long and get left behind if the company they are hitched to doesn't innovate as fast as others. Not a question, just a comment on my layman's opinion. That's a good point too. I say it all the time. If who I think is best changes tomorrow, I'm not married to anybody. If I don't think this is going to happen, that's why I can say it with all confidence. If I thought that Daikin dropped the ball in one way, shape, or form tomorrow, Griffin Air would just immediately switch to whoever I think is best at that point. And so that's why I can say in all confidence, my daddy didn't start Griffin Air. I didn't inherit it. And no offense to anybody that does have a generational business. I actually think that's quite impressive when you have a business that can go on for years through the generations. But my point in saying that is when I started Griffin Air almost 11 years ago now, I tried multiple brands. Nobody, my dad didn't tell me what brand to sell. My dad didn't tell me what brand to know and like and love and to tell my customers are the best, even though I'd never tried anything else. I tried multiple brands unfortunately, at the expense of, at times, having to eat things, eat costs, eat a repair to try to get someone happy when I found out that a brand was falling short in one way, shape, or form. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it now. There are certain brands that, by gosh, I do hate them. That's a strong word. I hate that brand. One brand in particular, I'm not going to say it now, so don't even ask. But there's one brand in particular that I have shared in some of our videos that they do not stand behind their warranties. They look for reasons to not honor them. And I had to eat a pretty big job one time, and ever since then, I hate that. I will never sell their brand again, ever. For the rest of my life, I'll never sell that brand again. And so, that said, I kind of got off topic. Just because I like who I like, if somebody else comes along and is better at it or does something better, or the company I like falls short in one way, shape, or form, I'm not married to anybody. I'll switch. And I think that's a really good point. Noah says, best way to market on an HVAC business. Ooh, good question. That is not a homeowner question, Noah. You must be a business owner, or at least a part of the trade. Best way to market it. Man, I'm going to give you a secret that I hopefully none of my competitors are watching this. It's not a huge secret. It's not groundbreaking or anything like that, but there is 3 things at Griffin Air that we do. And all of my guys, if any of my guys were sitting here with us, they would be able to tell you what our big 3 is. If Ryan or Kenny were sitting right now and I said, hey, what's our big 3? They would say, they'd be able to rattle them off. And so what they are is we have our VIP club that we will, and I'm not going to get into everything that's involved with that, but that's essentially our maintenance club. And we give some certain perks, discounts. There's actual real value in that. And every time we get a new customer, we tell them about our VIP club. The more customers you can get on that, the healthier your business will be. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we put out yard signs. I think yard signs are one of the best investments that a small business can make, especially a small service business in comparison. You could certainly spend money on lots of other things. I know a lot of people push the Google pay-per-click and all these other things, but yard signs, if a neighbor sees you working at a neighbor's house and they see that sign out there, we have gotten, what's a sign? It's 15, 20, 25 bucks. And if you sell one job off of it, it paid for itself. And so I'm getting way off topic because a lot of you folks are homeowners, but Noah asked. So yard signs, so VIP club, our yard signs, and then our third one is we ask all of our customers for a 5-star review on Google, Facebook, Yelp, wherever they're willing to leave us that 5-star review, and that's our big 3. So that's, in my opinion, that's the best way that we've been able to grow our company. We haven't jumped as high as some companies or anything like that, but we've grown every year, and we do it slow and steady and healthy, and because of that, it's taken care of us. So that's my opinion. There's other things too. I could go into things like websites and strategy and design and all that good stuff, social media strategies and things like that. But I'll leave you with one last one, Noah, is I would learn what's called the 3-second rule of marketing. And that is every company, every consumer, you have less than 3 seconds to make some sort of impression on them. So if they're, say, driving by your billboard on the side of the road, you're going to get 3 seconds for them to look at that billboard or less. If your van passes them on the road, you're going to get 3 seconds. If they see your yard sign out there, you're going to get 3 seconds. If they come across a social media post or even pop over to your website, you got 3 seconds. And the reason that 3 seconds is important is when you're doing your marketing, you need to, like, if you look at my hat right now, not that it's the greatest design in the world, but you know exactly what I'm trying to get across in that 3 seconds, right? Let me show you this. That is our yard sign. That yard sign, I don't put anything fancy or anything crazy on it. It's for the 3-second rule. I wanted them to see call 5050 air. That's our phone number. And I wanted them to see in a different color all of our services and then the company name. And that it's very simple. It's white. There's way cooler colors and designs out there, but those all those cool colors and designs, they break the 3-second rule. So Noah, that is my class for tonight on marketing. Hopefully you got something out of it. John, jump ducts, of course, are cheaper, but running returns to all the bedrooms increase your resistance. I guess it's a trade-off. It's true. You know, I'll tell you, the other thing is you probably might feel a little draft there, right? Ryan says, I recently had to bend my return grill louvers to help with the airflow noise. Interesting, but it's not the prettiest thing. Is there a type of return grill that isn't noisy out of the box? Aluminum grills. Ryan, definitely check the square inches, not square footage, square inches, and you want to be less than 200 square inches per ton on your return grills. Because if you are under that, then that might be why you're having the noise. You shouldn't really, I mean, I'm not saying you won't hear it, but you shouldn't hear it too bad. Mr. Uzman says, I am in Pakistan. Very cool. So we are worldwide tonight. What time is it there? I'm just curious. If you're on the other side of the world, is it morning time there? That's pretty cool. Welcome to our show. Brian says, I have seen on the plans, first value engineering change, cost reduction removal, never put in. Yeah, I've never put them in either. Brian says, my son is a mining engineer. Very cool. There's engineers for everything. And I'm sure man, I can't imagine. That's pretty cool. Mr. Uzman says, application engineer uses selection software for optimal selection of specific HVAC equipment. We call that, what is that now? A manual, what is it, Brian? Is it a manual S, I think is what they're called? I don't know. There's so many now. Best Sports Media TV. Welcome to the show. Go Cowboys. Ooh, I said that on live TV. I'm not embarrassed for the first time since I was a child to say who my football team is, because I think the rest of the NFL league was put on notice this week. Just saying. As long as we can stay healthy, they are on notice. Best Sports TV says, question with the Daikin Fit Pro 5-ton unit. Is it louder than the smaller ton units? I have a 4-ton train now, but it sounds like a Mack truck on the startup. So the Daikin Fit is a communicating inverter system. So I'm not saying it's whisper quiet, but check out my video where I actually compared it to a single stage system. We literally took the decibel levels. I walked 20 feet from it to see if we could still hear it. And because the fan blows out the front away from the house, I would be very surprised if you would even hear it inside the house. It's on its way out, and I'm thinking about the 5-ton Daikin Fit Pro unit for faster cooling my home. Thoughts or expertise, please? Thank you. Yeah, definitely check out that video. I think it's called Daikin Fit versus Loud Unit or something like that. Check out that video. Brian says, my bedroom AC has a faulty sensor. Back ordered. Stole a used sensor from a DESD Mitsubishi for my Daikin almost 2 weeks now. Very interesting. Let me reach out to me tomorrow, Brian. I might be able to help you with that. I might be able to put you in touch with somebody to get that sensor for you a little quicker, maybe. John says, do you try to avoid zoning or single system unless it's communicating full modulating inverter system? I don't avoid it entirely, but I would prefer it. I would prefer it be an actual communicating inverter system if they are going zoning. But I mean, we did zoning for years before inverters were a thing. You just got to know what you're doing. You got to, whether it's airflow or they also have those sensors and things like that. There's ways to do it, and it's not as, but let's be honest, if you're zoning any system, there are going to be times when it's, you've got to do something, whether it's bypass dampers or whether it's those sensors that shut the blower down or slow it down or whatever it is that it's doing, because you have, let's say, a 5-ton system with the capability of pushing all this air, and then you're restricting it down to, a tiny little hole at times if it's only one zone calling. That said, I would prefer a communicating inverter system. Frank says, I humbly brag about Janitrol Goodman home HVAC system is 23 years old and the condenser fan died last week. I fixed it, but it's time to replace the whole system. Estimates scheduled. Nice, Frank. Let us know how that goes. John, great to have you on our show. He says, you're a sweet guy. You can't hate anyone. I don't hate anyone. I just hate that brand. Let's see. Eric says, I am getting my new HVAC system installed on Thursday. Is it difficult to customize a return grill to fit a 5-inch deep filter instead of a 1-inch? Every house is different. Sometimes it is difficult. Sometimes it's not difficult at all, especially if you're just putting a system in. The main thing I would be making sure of is making sure that it's going to be easy to get to replace that filter when the time comes. Make sure they're keeping that in mind. Ryan says, are you on the side of 2 p.m. visits per year or just 1 p.m. during the shoulder season where you can check? So we do 2 for our VIP customers. But I think bare minimum folks should be getting it once a year. Right. So we offer it as 2 PMs, just so you guys know. He's talking about preventative maintenance, and we call them actual tune-ups. And I do that because I want customers to know that we are offering more than just kicking the tires. Our guys actually clean the coils, treat the drains, try to make the system as new as possible again. And so that's why, we do that. Yes, it's 6 a.m. Way too early, pal. Why are you up out of bed then? I'm not a morning person. Let's see. Brian chatting at Ryan. Rad RV, welcome to the show. Any experience with the Bosch mini splits, good or bad? I don't have any experience with the Bosch mini splits. I would assume that Bosch is probably not making them. Maybe one of you other pros know who makes them. They're probably a rebranded, Medea or Gree or one of those other brands, but I don't know. That sensor is not at the factory. 17 SEER, not my favorite line. Budget friendly. Gotcha. Yeah. Huh. Mitsubishi is 8 and it works. Interesting. Ryan says, I saw last week that the Amana S series and Goodman will now offer its Daikin Fit style unit. How do you feel about Daikin selling the same product across the brands? Wouldn't they want to keep it premium? I think that I actually asked this question when I went to the factory and I talked to the guy that's he's in charge of all of that. And he was basically saying that, they always roll out things to the Daikin dealers first, but it was always intended to be a product that they offered across all of their brands. It doesn't bother me. I will tell you that it's the same product, or at least for the most part, it's still going to be a side discharge inverter system, but it's not the same controller and it does not have the same line. It doesn't have their Daikin One ecosystem either. So maybe it will at some point, but they don't have the Daikin One controller for theirs. And I actually just asked my guy that he's a friend of mine and he's a rep for Goodman. And I was like, hey, I want to get my hands on one of those controllers that you guys are going to be using. So I'm hoping that he will do that at some point. Brian says, I'm quoting access doors on 225 units, never touched since 75 feet, hot water and cold water. Let's see. We're going to do another segment. Bear with me here. I'm going to share with you guys another story this one is out of Jacksonville, Florida. Boop, boop, boop. Come on. This thing is, there we go. So this story, let's jump to I just saw that. Hold on. Actually, we're not going to do that story. I'm gonna hang on to that. Instead, we're going to do a question for you segment. And tonight's question for you is, this is a serious question, honestly. So I'd really like some input on this. And my question for you guys tonight is, what's the one thing you're surprised that I have not done a video on? So I'm actually looking for some input on this. What is the one thing you are surprised that you have not seen me do a video on? So put that in the chat. I'd love to hear that. Let's see. I giggled, John, because I saw, I thought I told you we're not supposed to call it that anymore. When I went and toured the factory, they have a new product that's going to be added to the Fit family of products, and they were calling it what John's calling it here. I am refusing to say it because they told me that to not say it. You know, I had it in the video where we shared that news, and they said, hey, you know, we had a marketing meeting and we're not going to call it that anymore. So don't call it that in your video. So, but yeah, John, I think that they are supposed, from what I remember from the meeting or when I toured the factory, I'm wanting to say that they said that it should hit the production line this year. So I'm wanting to say they said November maybe, because I think as Ryan just pointed out a moment ago, they are currently working on getting the Goodman and the Amana S series, you know, Daikin Fit equivalents out, and then Daikin is then going to have the Daikin new Fit. And so whatever that newer, better fit is, that is going to be, Brian says changed another name of something. In their defense, the product had not even been made yet. So I was getting a snippet, a little bit of a behind the scenes before they had even settled on a name. And so I heard them use that term. And then, John was on our show that week and he heard me use that term. And so, that's part of this. I probably came out with saying that name a little early. I will say though, and if anyone from Daikin sees this video, I mean, I don't even know if they watch my stuff. But if they do, I liked that name. The name that John is using, I liked it. Or at least, because what I told them is, a lot of the names that they are using, I don't think customers understand the difference, right? So like if Mitsubishi has their Mitsubishi M series and then they have their Hyperheat line, well, Hyperheat sounds, can we all agree that Hyperheat sounds better? And it's not that Mitsubishi thinks their M series is bad or anything like that. They're just saying, hey, this one's got Hyperheat, And so that's one of the things I kind of mentioned to them when I did do the tour down there is, it would be nice to have some names that, almost like a silver, gold, platinum or a good, better, bust, type wording. And so, it would be nice if they were to adopt something like that where one definitively sounds better than the other. So, John, that's the only news. That I have no new news on that product. I think they're on schedule. I think as Ryan, if you haven't seen that video they've done with the meeting of the Ryans, you have got to watch that. It's hilarious. There's an actual guy named Ryan and he does this meeting with all these other Ryans. And it's hilarious. But anyway, and so I think they're on schedule. So I think that what I remember from what I remember them telling me, by October, the Goodman and the Amana S series products are going to start being produced. And then just after that. I'm wanting to say they said November, but don't hold me to that. I don't remember. And that's when that newer, more capability fit will be coming out for Daikin. So we'll see. Bruce says, hey Josh, is it Carrier than one that you don't like? Come on, tell me if I have a Bryant. It is not Carrier. It's not Carrier, although I've had my quarrels with that C word. No, it's not Carrier. Ryan says, I would like to see a video where you switch someone from propane to electric heat strip only for heat and the amount they saved with a communicating inverter. That's a good idea. I can't think of a customer right this second that comes to mind that we've done that. I'm sure we have, but we've actually done a few propane systems, and we stayed propane, but they went with an inverter dual fuel system. So it's going to run off of that inverter heat pump. And Brian says Amanda's is already out. Okay, very cool. So maybe that other fit will be coming out very soon. Maybe they're ahead of schedule, it sounds like. Well, it sounds like they are ahead of schedule if they told me October. So, but that's a pretty good idea, Ryan. Eric says, have you done a video on comparing the static pressure drop on different brands and the MERV ratings of filters? I have not done one where we've compared them necessarily. Man, I would probably have to set up, quite a setup to do that. And unless we were to have the static pressure and slide one filter in versus another, and see, what the pressure drop would be then. So that's a good idea too. Skeeta says, I got a fit in Tampa. So that's awesome. Let us know how that goes for you. And welcome to the show. I don't think I've seen your name on here. I'm probably not even saying it correctly. But anyway, I think it's been a pretty good show tonight, guys. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Let's end the show with this. If you have a good heating and air company in your area, Skeeta, whoever put your fit in, maybe you want to share them. But just go ahead and share the name of that company and where they're located. Let's give some shout outs to some good companies across the nation and, give them some love as we close out our show tonight. Ryan says, would like to see a video on showing terrible installs or hacks before your company changes it out, before and after, to show proper installation. Ooh, now that is good. I actually really like that idea. Considering we just did one a couple weeks ago. I'm not going to mention the name, but any of you that have been watching my videos for a while, I know some of you just hate that I won't share. I'm just not trying to pick fights. I've already done that, and I'm over that, right? I picked fights a couple times when I first started my YouTube channel, and I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover. But anyway, any of you that have been watching my videos for a while, there is a particular brand that I'm not in love with. We started tonight's show out with this brand, and I said no comment on them. And for those of you that weren't here at the beginning, it's the brand that they like to do DIY stuff. So that way you all know who I'm talking about. I'll just say it. Mr. Cool. We had a Mr. Cool system a couple weeks ago, and I don't want to give all the details, but ultimately the guy said Mr. Cool fell short, is what he was basically saying. I put this system in, and they've fallen short for me here. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the headaches, and I want it done right. Come to my house. And so is Mr. Tony, I'm not going to say his last name, but Mr. Tony said, come on to my house, and we did, and that would have been a really good one for that, Ryan, to kind of show, the right and wrong ways of doing it in the same exact house. That would have been a really good one, but that's a good idea. So I probably might actually do a video like that, Ryan, very soon. Gary says, good show, Josh. Enjoyed tonight and look forward to next Tuesday. All the best. Just so you guys know, the first week of October, we will not have a show. So those of you that join us every week, which, by the way, I very much appreciate. But October 3rd, we will not have a show. Most of you know I've pretty much been here every Tuesday except for one night. We had really bad technical difficulties. Last week I was super late because of the technical difficulties. But every other Tuesday I've been here. But October 3rd, I will not be here. So just so you guys have that on your calendar. And October 17th, I will be back in Houston, and I'm not sure if we're going to have a show that week or not. I'm going to try. I try every time that I'm down there. But Daikin's actually having a conference, and they've invited this chubby face to speak on stage at their conference. So very cool. I don't know what they're thinking, but I'm just some guy that grew up in a trailer park and learned how to fix air conditioners, and so it's just crazy. So that's going to be a really good time. And I'm actually going to shoot some video too when I'm there for that. So maybe you guys will get to see some of that. We'll see. Frank says, great show. Your passion is evident. Wish you serviced the South Side. South Side of what, Frank? Are you at the South Side of Richmond, or are you South Side somewhere else? Craig Griffin. Craig, you must be a handsome guy. I've told you that before. All those Griffins are just handsome. But Craig says, Rob's AC in Marrero. I'm sure I'm not saying that right, so I apologize. But Marrero, Louisiana, just installed 2 new fit heat pump full systems in our remodeled house in Luling. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong too. Luling, Louisiana. Great, friendly techs. Very neat work. That's awesome, Craig. Very cool. Rob's AC. Let's go a step further on this. We've done this before. We've given companies shout outs, but we've never gone this far. And we're going to do it. We're going to go to their website here and give these guys, I think this is the right one, Rob's AC. And I think this is right, in Louisiana. Celebrating 30 years in business. So shout out to these guys. I don't know them, but Craig thinks pretty highly of you and is giving you a good shout out. So if you're in the Louisiana area and these guys' coverage area, here's their phone number right here. And it's robsair.com is the name of their website. So Craig giving them some love tonight. Back to our chat. We're going to be wrapping up here very shortly. If you have a good heating and air company, make sure that you get them put in our chat here before we get wrapped up. Frank says, Virginia Beach. Okay. I make it down your way from time to time. That we've been to a few concerts, and we like to come down your way when it's not summertime. Because we like to go to the aquarium. My little girl, and we like to do things like that when it's not so busy. So we don't come down there very much when it's summertime though. Ryan says, when would you offer the VRV Life over the Fit? I don't hear much about the VRV Life anymore. Last question. Thank you. Awesome show as always. Thanks, Ryan, for your kind words. The VRV Life obviously can be paired with mini splits as well. So there are times that I will, offer it. Every house is different, and it just kind of depends. I have my brother-in-law called me and he said, hey, I want the best. I don't know what it is or anything, but I want whatever the best is out there. And I said to him, I was like, well, the best is probably the VRV Life for residential. But you're just getting mini splits. Are you sure you want to go that route? We could probably do some Aurora series or something like that. That Daikin offers, and he's like, nope, I want the best. So we actually did some VRV Lifes there. So that might be when I offer them. And then obviously the only other thing is that you could do the VRV Life. It can do the mini splits, and it can be paired with a gas furnace. Whereas the Fit is obviously just a straight split system, 1-to-1, normal ducted system. So, it just depends on what the customer's after. And sometimes when I go in a house and they're like, well, I want this, this, and this, a light bulb will go off, and I'll say, well, then you want the VRV Life. If you want a system that can do everything that you're saying, that's when that'll come up, so it's more organic than me offering it, versus the fit or whatever. I think the VRV Life is just so universal. It can do so many different things. And one of the comments I got tonight on our channel, a guy was like, I don't think Daikin's very good. I think that Mitsubishi and LG and Fujitsu and all these different brands, he was basically saying that Daikin was not, at the top when it comes to mini splits. And that's fine if that's how he feels. But my response to him was, when those other brands have something comparable to the VRV Life and they make it all themselves, they don't have to work with another company to have a gas furnace option or whatever. If at all, when all those companies can do what the VRV Life can, then we can have that conversation. But until then, in my mind, Daikin is king. They're king because of that one product line. Sorry, not sorry, right? Everybody else has their opinions, so I get to have mine too. Jacob, welcome to the show. Do you know the new Ecoer systems? We do not have that. We don't even have a good supplier in our area, but you're like the third person that has asked me about them, so they must be getting pushed somewhere. They're Bosch's competitor. Has the humidity issue been fixed with them? Ecoer is very different because you can put it on a brand's air handler, any brand's air handler. How would this affect humidity? Variable speed compressor with 1-speed blower. So let's see. Let me just make sure I know what we're talking about here. Give me 1 second here. Ecoer. I think from the picture, I'm already looking at a picture of them. This looks like, in the picture, it almost looks like it's made by Medea, which so is Bosch. So that's not a big deal. But in this picture, they're more showing this little device that gets mounted on the system. In fact, I think I actually, when I first started getting sponsors for our channel, I'm wanting to say I either spoke to someone from this company or a company that makes something very similar to this, because I have seen something like this before. And I remember, it's been a while, but I remember talking to somebody about something like this. So anyway, we don't have a good supplier in our area for that. So Jacob says he's in New Jersey and his concern is humidity. Yeah, you've got to cut down the airflow on those, especially like I did a Bosch 1.0 in my house. You've really got to be mindful of the airflow, and then you've got to turn on that dip switch that calls for a colder coil. Brian says it is a Bosch. The device is very, very cool. It offers a 10-year labor warranty. Thank you for all your knowledge, Tom. Thanks, Bruce. I was thinking about the VRV Life with 2 air handlers and furnaces instead of zoning in my house. Hopefully a pro thinks it's a good idea. The one thing I will say, Ryan, is it only goes up to 5 ton, I think. So if your systems add up to more than that, then maybe like I said, it's only a good fit when it's a good fit. Pun not intended on that, right? Because we're talking about the VRV Life. Jacob says you need a 2-stage blower motor. Single stage won't work. No, single stage will work. You just gotta you've gotta set it correctly. You've gotta, so instead of saying 400 or even higher CFMs per ton, I'm gonna lower that thing as low as I can to still keep temperature in the house. So like where I live, it's very humid as well. And so I'll lower that airflow as low as I can on that outdoor unit with the Bosches. I'll lower the capacity if I need to, because they've got that switch for that. And my whole goal is to lower the airflow as much as I can going across that coil. And it's ultimately only because I'm trying to get it to run longer. I'm trying to get it to not cool so fast in that house and run longer and remove more humidity. So All right, guys, that's our show for this week. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next Tuesday at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Find out what that time is in your area if you are not on the East Coast, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We've got a goal to get to 100,000 subscribers, and that way we can get behind closed doors at a few places that I haven't been able to get behind there yet. So other than that, I appreciate all you guys. We'll see you next week, and make it a great week. Take care.